Good fish. Keep that fish in the water.
That's a good fish.
That is a nice fish. Let me get under the fish. Oh, yeah. That's what we were looking for.
That's beautiful.
Wow. Look at the size of this thing. Whoa. Oh, my God. Joel, that's the one we were looking for. Oh, geez, I can't even grab him. Come here, you. Wow.
Wow.
Now, that, I guess you would call that a Montauk Fluke. What do you think that's going to go about?
Watching Northeast Angling. We're proud to present inshore and offshore saltwater fishing. We cover every species from fluke and porgies to stripers, sharks, and tuna. You can learn more about techniques, tackle, and destinations at neangling.com. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Well, we just broke the inlet. We're out here in Montauk. We're looking for some big fluke today. Our guest is Captain Joel Leza. Joel's the captain of the Sea Otter fleet based here in Montauk.
Joel, what do you got in store for us today? We got a beautiful day out here.
We're going to be looking for a bigger fluke, trophy fluke, most people will call them. Something over 5 pounds. That's what we're going to target.
And how deep are we going to be fishing?
We're going to be fishing, right now here we're like 55 feet. We're going to hit some high spots at like 30, 35. Right here, pretty hilly here. We're going to be fishing some rips.
I see Rich looks like he's got the first fish of the day on.
I'm working something here.
You think you need a net?
I don't know. It doesn't feel too bad. We'll take a look in a second. No, I think I can handle this one, Joel. Looks a little short. Nice little fish, though. And now we're fishing with strip baits today. We're using, how much lead? We're using about 8, 10 ounces of lead we're using?
Right now I'm using a 10. We might have to go to a 12 when it really starts running hard.
Pretty fish.
10-ounce sinkers. 10-ounce sink is about average here, I'd say.
Okay. Andy, got something there?
Yeah, I just hooked one up.
There you go.
Doesn't feel like a big fish, but it's a fish. Oh, just popped off.
Now, Joel, you said these bigger fish, you like to target the structure, the back ends of these ledges and the humps that are in here?
Right now we're fishing the rips here. There's a lot of hills. There's a lot of fish on them right now, but if later we're going to just target some harder bottom. I think there's less fish, but there's some bigger fish on them.
Okay. So this is the numbers spot?
Right here, yeah. We're just going to try to see what we can find in these number spot here.
All right.
You know, I know we've got these big weights on, Joel. It's really important that we hold the bottom of these spots, right?
Definitely. If you're not on bottom, you're not going to catch fluke. This is what I mean by numbers. Lots of fish this size to 18, 19 inches in this area.
Occasional big fish, you said also?
Yeah. Sometimes you see them 6, 7 pounds here.
Nice.
Well, it's good because it keeps the action going.
Oh,
looks like Rich got a little better
feels
fish
a little
on
better
there.
That one definitely feels a little bit better. Yeah.
Oh, and I've hooked up as well, Rich.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
This feels like a nice fish, too.
I think this one will stay in the boat.
All right, now I got to get the net.
Yeah, I might have to bother you for the net on this one. I'm going to slide down a little bit. Excuse me for a second, Joel. If you want to grab that net, that'd be
some
great.
room there, Rich.
This actually feels like a decent fish.
I don't think mine felt good at first.
Nah, this guy's still pulling pretty good.
You know, one thing we do when we bring these fluke up, and we're not pumping the rod, it's just a slow, steady reel.
That's a very good point, Andy. You really don't want to give this fish any opportunity to get off. Just keep steady pressure on the fish and turn the handle.
Need a net there, Andy?
My fish is a little small.
Oh, I got this guy coming. I see a lot of color, and you want to know something?
The wrong time.
Yeah. We know that's part of fluke fishing, is you never know what might come up on the end of that line.
They say Montauk is known for its shark fishing too, right?
We got plenty of these, unfortunately. This spring we've had a lot of these.
That fish completely had me fooled. I had some nice head shake with that fish. He came up pretty smooth. I thought for sure that was a decent fluke.
Somebody tried taking a bite out of him. See that behind the dorsal there?
I do see that. Now, what would you think? Bluefish, maybe?
Bluefish.
Or probably bluefish?
Bluefish.
That's interesting.
That just shows that nothing's safe out here. You know, a little while ago, we saw some fish on top. You know, who knows what they could be feeding on. You know, Joel, what other species can we expect here while we're doing what we're doing today?
You catch some striped bass mixed in by accident. We've been catching a few sea bass, maybe 8 or 10 for the day. Mostly we're catching fluke, short fluke, or, you know, right here we've been picking through to catch the keepers. It's a numbers game here.
Now, Joel, you said, when I called you up earlier, you said you want to bring pretty stout tackle. You said 7-foot rods and reels, 7-foot rods. I'm using a Trinidad from Shimano. Andy and yourself using a new reel, a Dakota that they just came out with. Braided lines, 30-pound test. This is pretty much the type of tackle you want to use for this type of fishing.
Definitely. I mean, we average a 10-ounce sinker. I mean, you want something pretty heavy. It's ocean fluke, and you're definitely using something heavier than you would in the bays.
Yeah, you need a nice beefy rod with some backbone, not just to handle the sinker, but to get a good hook set. We got a lot of line out right now.
Yeah. You know, Joel, I noticed that myself also now, because I've been watching you, but constantly moving that rod, constantly working that bait. What's that all about?
I like to keep moving bait. I'm always jigging it. Seems to work for me. Some people like just drag bottom. I like to jig it.
Well, I guess if you think about it, you're fishing a dead bait, so by moving it, you're probably giving it a better presentation, making it look alive.
Definitely.
You know, and that sometimes it lends itself to the aggressiveness of the fluke. You know, they are predators, and they like a good live bait moving around.
I agree with you, Andy.
I think it aggravates them as well by bouncing it. You know, whether it looks alive. I think it's also aggravates the fluke.
You know, guys.
Nah, I think I'm fine.
You know, guys, I just dropped a fish here.
Yeah,
And one
I just
thing that we
popped-
talk about all the time.
I just popped this one.
It's so important. If you drop a fish, we're on a quick drift. You just drop back to them. Get your rig back. There's a lot of times that fish will still feed.
Yeah, they can be pretty persistent, I've noticed.
Definitely. I mean, sometimes with a slack tide, you see it count 6, 7 times. You get a fish to come back for it as long as it's a piece of bait.
Same fish, right?
Yeah, I think it is anyway.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. But I know, again, anybody that talks about catching a potential trophy fluke or a large fluke, Montauk is probably one of the first places that come to mind. I mean, I know you guys house some of the biggest fluke you're going to see caught in this area every year.
The last few years, we've seen teen-sized fluke every year. You know, we don't always see them, but you see them.
Last year, you had a couple of big fish on your boat. What'd you have last year?
Last year, the big fish was 15 and a half.
Wow.
That's a nice fluke.
That's some
13s.
fish.
But just the end of this month is when you start really seeing the big stuff.
Any fish that like you were talking about, any fish over 5, that's a pretty nice fluke.
Yeah, I agree.
And on this tackle, it's going to be a heck of a battle.
Now you said the end of this month, you said, you know, pretty much we're in the first week of August now, and this is generally when this fishery starts to heat up for the bigger fish, you said.
Last year we had an unbelievable year. It started a little earlier than this, but the last few years, the second week of August, first week of August, the big fish showed up, and it just got better until like average. I'd say it got better until midweek of September, second week of September.
Right. And when did the fishery actually start? When did you start getting your first fluke in here?
This year it was about 2 weeks later than last. We had them around last week of April, first week of May, but 2 years ago we had them second week of April.
It seems like their arrival every year coincides with the arrival of the bait. You start getting those big bait schools, those fluke usually aren't too far behind.
This year, definitely. You know, squid showed up and the fluke were there.
Yeah, that's one thing I always said. If you could find a big body of squid, you're going to find a big body of fluke, and probably large fluke also.
Visit the Northeast Angling website at neangling.com for nationwide saltwater charter directory, fishing news, and free fishing reports. You can also find dozens of techniques, tips, and tackle for every saltwater species. Now let's get back to the action.
Oh, you working one there, Rich?
Yeah, he just hit me once. He's back there. He goes right there.
Nice. You know, that's key the way you did that. You felt that little bit of weight, boom, you set the hook. A nice, steady retrieve, keeping the fish in control.
And Joel, you said right when we get into that rip, we're going to see some fish, and I'll tell you, we're right on the money. As soon as we got up into that rip, you could see the current break, and this guy jumped right on.
Rich, you gonna need the net for that one?
I don't know. I'll take a look at him on the top. I might. That's going to be close. You know what? I want to handle him. No, I'll get him.
You know, we're releasing most of these fish, so we don't mind if we drop one or two right alongside the boat. But most people are out here fluking. It's a good idea to have a good net on the boat.
Definitely. Well, that's a keep. That's about an 18-inch fish, 17-inch fish.
Beautiful.
And that's
fish.
generally, you said, in this area, that's what you see a lot of around here, Joel?
See a lot of 17, 18-inch fish.
Okay.
Here, yeah.
I'm going to let him go right back in. That was a fun fish.
You're right about the numbers in it. That's a lot of fun.
Hey!
Oh, this is a little nicer fish.
There you go, Andy.
You know, that fish he hit, I dropped back a little bit to him, and then I started jigging that rig again. The fish was right on there.
Came right back in?
Yeah. Well, he felt good at first.
He's getting
I'm afraid
smaller.
he's losing weight as he comes up.
That happens a lot. They have.
You get that initial pull, and then they kind of give up as you bring them up a little higher. But this is fighting pretty good.
You know, I know there's a lot of
You
different
gonna be
baits.
net?
No, I'm good here, Joel.
There's a lot of different baits you can use out here. We're using a strip bait today with some spearing. Joel, what else do you use out here? What do you like? What do you prefer as bait?
My preference is this for bigger fish, more consistent. Sometimes slack water, I use a silver bullet
Okay.
or a spro jig. Spros work real good. I have a lot of customers that use the spros to really catch a lot of fish.
The bucktails, Spro bucktails?
Spro bucktail, yeah.
Color
3
preference,
ounce.
you notice color preference with anything like that also? No?
Depends on the day. Some days they like the white. White is my most consistent. I like chartreuse a lot of days.
So you mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. Some guys will catch them on colors you never thought you'd catch them on.
I usually like to use whatever color the other guys are catching them on.
That's
But it's always good to be aware of what's going on around you.
All right.
that's consistent gauge to see what's working for somebody. That's for sure.
Yeah, you might have a proven technique or a proven rig that you really like, but when you're out with a bunch of guys, look around. Somebody might have something that's working a little bit better that day.
One day last year, I had most of the boat was fishing white or chartreuse, and I had a woman using a pink feather. She had about 7 or 8 keepers between 6 to 9 pounds for the day. She had like 30 people going crazy trying to
What
get
you
a
were
pink
doing.
feather, and nobody else had any pink on the boat.
You know, I'll tell you one thing you got to stop doing, though. You got to stop telling me these stories of 7 and 9 pound fluke and 7 and 8 keepers, because if we don't see a couple of them, it's going to be a long day. I'm going to come after you.
We're gonna have to look for them in a little while, I think.
You know, I notice there's a lot of water out here, a lot of places to fish, and at different stages of the tide, do different spots produce better or worse?
Definitely. I mean, I usually look for bigger fish at the change of a tide, an hour before the change. I always seem to notice you catch the biggest of the fish. You might be catching shorts for 2 hours, all of a sudden the tide will ease up, and then all of a sudden you see a big fish show up.
You know, we see that with a lot of other species as well, not just the fluke.
Yeah, most definitely. It's almost like the smaller fish will turn a little bit less active as the tide draws out, and it's like the bigger fish almost take the opportunity to feed.
Yeah, and they jump in.
Yep.
It's a really
Definitely
good
agree
point,
with
Reg.
that. This definitely seems like bigger, a little less aggressive.
Now I'm feeling this. This feels like a tough bottom right here. From what I can feel, I mean, using the braided lines, catching the vibrations coming up through the rod to the reel to my fingers. This feels like a chewed up bottom right here. It feels rough.
Right here, there might be some rubble. Where we started is definitely a sandy bottom. There's definitely some rubble over some of the rips. Depends where you are. Right now, we're pretty far north, and there are some rocks where you
Okay.
pretty much we're going to go a little further and start another drift.
All right.
Now let's go, let's move up and let's get back on the drift.
Well, we're back here in Montauk with Captain Joel Lizza. You know, Joel, you said that you get a lot of sudden weather changes here in Montauk, and we just experienced one. We had, you know, nice conditions, and all of a sudden that wind just kicked up. Now you brought us inshore here. And, you know, in reality, there's a lot of places to hide in Montauk when the wind gets like this, ain't there?
We've got a lot of places to hide. The only wind that we got to worry about is the east wind. Otherwise, we can fish north side or south side, hide somewhere.
Okay.
And I noticed we still pretty much have the depth here. Oh, there's a little bit of a bump. And you still have the depth here. I'm just gonna drop back to this fish.
What are we in now, Joe, roughly, depth-wise?
I think right here we're about 35 feet. It gets into about 50, just a little outside where we are right now.
Fish there, Andy?
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. Well, that wasn't a bit.
Decent.
Once again, you know, you get these fish, you get a little bit of touch. You got to drop back to them. Keep that bait right in their face. And this one, you know, basically, I think I annoyed him a little bit, and he finally hooked up. It's not a big fish, but he's a good one.
Think you're gonna need net?
No, I think I'll be okay, but I think this fish will keep. Oh yeah, he's not bad at
That don't
all.
look too bad, Andy.
Oh, there we go.
Nice start.
There you go. And again, we're fishing with the cut bait, and we're using a whole spearing right now. And like I said, Joe, you were talking earlier, just keep, there we go. Keep that rod moving, make that bait look as live as you can, and you know, you can definitely induce these fish to strike up on you.
You know, it's amazing how aggressive they can be sometimes. And at other times, you know, you feel like you gotta induce that fish. You're wiggling in front of him, he touches it, he hits it, and other times they just jump right on the bait.
You want a net there, Rich?
No, I think I can handle him. It's not a bad fish, though. There we go. Ooh,
On a
lively.
fast tide, I think you should move the bait less. On a slower tide, bounce it a little more. That's
I
what
got
I
you.
usually like to do.
I think it's because that fast tide gives the bait a little more action, because you know your bait's zooming along the bottom. You know, there's a lot of current. It's got a lot of life to it. You know, we are using dead baits. On the slow tide, you want to give it whatever you can.
Joe, you notice that the color of these fish reflect on what kind of bottom they're on mostly also?
A lot, definitely. The darker fish seem to be in the rocks. You fish a sand bottom, it's definitely a lighter color.
Like this is a lighter colored fish, so more like you said, we were fishing a sandy bottom here. So I
Yeah.
guess they blend in whatever their environment is in, right?
Seems to be, for sure.
It's a fun fish.
Now, Joel, how long will these fish stay here?
We start catching them from May, and sometimes we get them till October. Last couple of years, the second week of September, it's seemed to drop off. You get some nice fish, but not near as many.
And you know, when we talk about the tackle here, you know, Rich and I, you were talking before about, you know, how many hooks are we going to put on, what our rigs are going to look like. You know, what are your feelings on that?
My preference is single hook. One hook is all you need to catch a big one.
I like that. I like that a lot. It's true too, because, you know, I mean, you use multiple hookups and multiple rigs like that, and I mean, granted, there are times you may catch a couple of fish with it, no two ways about it, but you tangle a net constantly, and a lot of times you find yourself just caring too much about your rig and not being on the bottom long enough to get an opportunity to catch these fish. With a single hook and a sinker, it's a simple rig, it doesn't tangle, and like you said, you only need one hook to catch one big fish, right?
It seems to be more consistent. I mean, that's my preference.
Visit the Northeast Angling YouTube channel for hundreds of videos, including full-length episodes, exciting clips, product reviews, and instructional videos. And now, the exciting conclusion of Northeast Angling.
You know, Joel, we just moved into this area. It's a little bit shallow water, and it looks like we got a pretty big school of bluefish that came up right in front of us here. Do you feel like sometimes when you get a busting school of bluefish on the surface, it pays to make a drift through them?
I love to try it. I mean, I found some really nice fish underneath the school. Sometimes we're diamond jigging bass, and you know, you got bird life, and a couple guys will try fluke, and you see nice fluke come up one after another. So now I try it pretty much every time I see it if they're in the area where I'm fishing.
Andy, you playing something there?
Yeah, and you know, once again, that there we go. It shows the kind of opportunists that fluke are, you know. There's a lot of feeding activity going on, the bait's a little confused. You can bet that the fluke are going to take advantage of that and try and take a shot at them themselves.
I bet they just lay under there and they wait for the scraps to fall down and they feed right up under them bluefish, wouldn't you think, Joel?
I know striped bass do it, and I've learned that flukes seem to do it more often than I used to think. The last couple of years, we've had some nice fluke underneath the pile of birds.
That's not a bad fish, Andy.
Let's keep her.
Here you go, bud. Good job. Well, there goes, proves your theory again. Now, look, now I'm looking at these birds right now, and now these things are getting active. Look at this. They are busting everywhere. This is like a school of 1 to 2 pound bluefish. There's got to be a lot of bait in the water, wouldn't you think, Joel?
Been a lot of sand eels around lately. I mean, they must have something balled up pretty tight.
And we're going to drift right through that.
At least on the outskirts.
See if we can grab another one.
I'd like to see a big bass come up.
Might take one of them little bluefish down. Back now, we're making that drift again. Let me ask you something. We've seen a couple of nice fish on that last drift, maybe 3, 4.5 pounds. You got one here, Joel?
I got a nice one here.
I was going to say, what's the odds on seeing a real good fish when you mix it in with them 3s and 5s? The 2s are in.
When I see a nice fish, when we see some nice fish, I usually try to keep pounding the spot until you get something bigger.
Well,
or if it drops out.
That looks pretty good.
I'm going to need your help too, Rick.
This one feels pretty good. It's got some weight.
I got mine here already. Here we
Let
go.
me grab yours, Andy. Oh, Joel. Geez, that's a good fish. Keep that fish in the water.
That's a good fish.
That is a nice fish. Let me get under that fish. Oh, yeah. That's what we were looking for. Wow. Look at the size of this thing. Whoa. Oh, my God. Joel, that's the one we were looking for. Oh, geez, I can't even grab him. Come here, you. Wow. Wow. Now, that, I guess you would call that a Montauk Fluke. What do you think that's going to go about?
That fish there is about 8 pounds.
That is one beautiful fish. Wow, we just said it too. Like, what's the odds on these big boys mixing in with those 3 to 5 pound fish? He was right in there with them, huh? That is a good looking fish. This is yours. What do you want to do? You want to keep this fish? You want to let him go?
I'm looking for a 10 pounder. Let's see if we can catch a big one.
Nice. I'm with you, bud. I want to drop him right in the water. That is one sweet fish. You know, I'll tell you, Joel, we've had some trip out here today. We've seen some beautiful fish, anywhere from 14 inches to, oh, Jesus, almost 8 pounds or a little over 8 pounds. Oh, there's a fish.
You know, basically everywhere you've taken us, we've seen fish. We either saw a lot of fish and some were mixed, some nice ones mixed in, or you took us to a couple pieces that had nothing but nice sized fish on.
This don't feel like a fluke.
Oh, let me
Got you tied in there,
Rich?
I don't know. Oh, sea bass.
Sea bass, nice.
I'll take that. Now that's a good eating fish. This, I'll tell you, this is something I love these fish. And these are beautiful fish, you know that? The coloration on these things. This is something I enjoy catching. That's about an average size fish you get here, a little smaller?
That's a little small, that's keeper, but that's for this time of year, that's decent size. What do you got there?
Andy, you working something there?
Yeah, I'm working a nice little fluke
There you
here,
go.
I believe.
I'm gonna hold on to this fish, because this is one I'm gonna have for dinner tonight. I love the way these fish taste.
I'll tell you one thing about these fluke, these are nice scrappy fish. And on this tackle, it's a lot of fun.
No, I agree with you. Joel, you know, you showed us, and look at it, they're pulling them up all around me now. You just, you know, if somebody wants to get out here and get involved with the charter boat fishing and the party boat fishing, what do? They basically just come down to the dock, or?
Some people like to call, I mean, we have
Nice fish,
party
Andy.
boat fleet, about 8 or 9 boats in Montauk here. We do a lot of fluke fishing at the start of the season, almost everybody's fluking. A little while later, some of the boats pan off and do some porgy fishing, sea bassing.
You mentioned the night bass trips, and you said there's been evenings you've had almost 100 keepers on the boat. I find that amazing that there's that many fish out here. It's just incredible.
Striped bass fishing is red hot, like from May till July. End of July, August, sometimes we get a little lull in between the moon, but we do a lot of night bass fishing.
And do the guys have a lot of different options for getting out here and fishing? What are their choices when they come out here?
We've got a huge charter boat fleet. I mean, if you want to come with a group, you know, charter boat, do it ahead of time. Or there's at least nine party boats that, you know, 6 of them do night bass fishing. We have one of them that does a night trip. So you can night bass on a party boat or charter boat.
I got you. Well, I tell you, you showed us a good time, and I can't wait to get back out here again. You made me a believer.
I want to thank you.
Thanks for everything, Joel.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
No problem. No problem. Looking forward to doing it again.
I hope next time maybe we can get you a 10 pounder.
Hey, the one you got wasn't too small, that's for sure.
Thank you for watching Northeast Angling. You can learn more about techniques, tackle, and destinations as seen on this show at neangling.com. See you on the water.